No, ladies and gentlemen, you're not seeing double. We are back here once again on Sportswire Radio, which seems like a common recurrence here. We are back for the second time today, but we are back with good reason because our guest tonight is a man that we've actually should have had on. I probably lost count at least two, three, maybe even four times. But there's good reasons he's here because he has heard a number of different things from some other of his DBW and EBW colleagues. He's going to talk about that here, Anselm. He's going to get us ready for EBW Pro's first show of the year, which has just been announced recently this past week, which is called Bound for Luck. So we'll talk about that here, Anselm, on March the 9th. So we're very, very excited about that. We'll also talk about what we last saw him and our friends over at DBW. DBW's Mary Mayhem. He was in a championship match, and I'm sure he's got a few things to say about that. Plus, he's even got a thing or two about somebody he nearly killed that came on Sportswire Radio a month ago. He'll tell us who it is and some. But our guest needs no further introduction. Because it's the first time he's here, and he has heard so many of his colleagues in DBW and EBW get that introduction, and he has waited his turn patiently for the better part of a month to get on this show. It's time to give him that introduction that he so lovingly deserved. So we're done! Without further ado here on the Sports Report, number one, level sports show. Wrestling star here from Forever EBW, EBW Pro, and DBW. He's the all-natural wrestler. He's the former EBW Max 14 champion. His name is My friend, how you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How's everybody out there?
We'll find out.
I'm doing good.
Next hour and a half. We'll definitely find out, and it's an absolute honor to have you here, my friend. A lot to get into, and I guess I'll come back to that person I'm referring to. He was actually supposed to be in your chair tonight, but we pushed him back 1 week because you have patiently waited your shot, and that's on me, and that's why I want to give you all the time in the world. But I do want to ask you, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, it was just announced not too long ago, earlier this week, that EBW Pro returns for the first time this year on March the 9th. It's going to be called Bound for Luck. It's going to be out at the Pine Grove Civic Association. You, I'm sure, have no doubt a few things or two to say about it. But anything else that you may want to say for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio about what we can expect coming up on March the 9th, Bound for Luck, EBW Pro?
Oh, there is so much. Trust me, on this off season, as some people call it, trust me, just because I'm not in the ring, I'm still training. Whether I'm training in the gym, training at home, even on my break, I'm even training at work.
How is that possible?
Always.
You're training on your break? How do you do that? That's a new one I've heard, my friend.
I go in the break room. I go somewhere where nobody can see what I'm doing, and I'm working on moves for depending on if it's for 30 minutes or for an hour. I'm in there constantly working on techniques, sitting down, thinking. My mind is always going about wrestling.
Interesting that you say that, and you talk about how excited and how ready you are. And I know things didn't happen the way you would have liked it. You had championship shots in both EBW Pro and in DBW right before 2023 is ended, and you came up short in both those situations. How motivated have you been to get back in the ring after coming up short in both those situations?
Oh, it's a good thing you asked. I'm always motivated. As soon as that bell rings from the beginning and to the end, as soon as I go behind that curtain, my mind is set what's going on for the next time.
Have you thought though a lot about that? You know, you had a chance to win the All-American Championship. You also had a chance to win the Anarchy Championship. But in a way, they were almost kind of like similar matches or similar situations. I mean, how much have you looked back, if you have it all, and gone back and watched the tape to kind of get you motivated for hopefully a better 2024 than the one you had in 2023?
Um, coming in DBW at a short period of time. Um, you know, I was trying to show off what I could do. Really not for a title spot, but you let them know this is what's to come in the future. But with EBW, they already know what I'm about when I step in that ring. Yeah, I'll joke backstage with you guys, but when you step in that ring, the game's over.
Let me ask
The
you
game
one.
is definitely over.
Oh, I'm sure the games are going to be over. We're going to see you back in the ring, no doubt about it, in March. But I want to talk about DBW for a few minutes. And yes, I actually am wearing my DBW shirt because I didn't have an EBW shirt yet. So I figured let me at least wear the DBW shirt. I'm trying to be official when we do these shows on Sportswire because the running joke is we have so many companies that we work with. I'm at least trying to wear one shirt of every company. So we're working on that. Stay tuned for more details later on in upcoming shows with that. But you know, you've only been in DBW for a short amount of time. Obviously, this is where I've watched you first. I've certainly, you know, going back, I knew you a little bit from EBW, but I've really seen you a lot more in DBW. I mean, how do you feel that you proved anything? I know we only saw you really for, you know, a couple of months there, if that at all, in DBW, and especially more of late in those Thursday Night Thunder Punch shows leading up in to Merry Mayhem. I mean, you know, how much do you want to prove to the DBW universe that, you know, you're a guy that can hang and certainly hang with some of the best here in not only in the company, but also I would dare say in the Mid-Atlantic?
I would say give me the best.
Yeah.
My match. I know my first match with T3.
Yep, Mr. Thomas Taft, a man that's come on here. Yep, I remember it
Yeah,
very well.
yeah. After that match, it was I never knew this guy. Didn't know who he was until after my match. He pulled me aside and he told me he's Aaron. Was it Aaron Jones? Yes, he pulled me aside. He saw my strengths, some things I need to work on, and from there, I'm like, okay, let me take this guy's advice to make myself better. You know, when he was telling me my strengths and things I need to work on, I was like, okay. So now they know a little bit about what I'm about.
Let me ask you a question on that because DBW has an eclectic roster, and I say this obviously as a compliment because you have a lot of different wrestlers and also in different places. Obviously, you mentioned names such as Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones last weekend, if you saw, actually wrestled a match, and one of the people he wrestled against was some guy named the Barbarian. Pretty big deal. Barbarian, a man that's wrestled in WCW, the NWA, WWF. I mean, the man, I'm surprised he's not even a Hall of Famer. But when you have guys like Aaron Jones, you have guys like obviously Navon McDonald, when he was here, he was obviously one of the champions that to drop the championship, the Anarchy title, which you win for, and you know, different people like that maybe you haven't seen in EBW. You know, guys like the Bitcoin billionaire Chase Wakefield, up and coming stars like the Blaze, Ace Christian, Mr. Judgment, the company's champion, the It Factor Cyrus. I mean, our global champion, a man to be inducted into our Hall of Fame next Monday. You know, so when you're in the room with these guys, you know, what are you asking them? Because you really haven't seen much of them because you've been an EBW guy. I'm curious on that.
It's when you step in the ring, give me your best. Because trust me, a man of many styles. Trust me, I'm giving you every style that I know.
I watched some of your work. Yeah, you're a very technical based wrestler. Yeah, I would agree with that. You're definitely a very technical savvy guy. Sure.
Yeah, from UFC to wrestling, karate. I'm starting to work on my top rope maneuvers. Trying to get my confidence up for that, so that this season, oh, trust me, you're not gonna know which way I'm coming.
Okay, fair enough. I will certainly get a couple of plugs in a second. And yes, thank you for the very kind words on the shirt. DB Dub, DB Dub, DB Dub. You can find that shirt actually very simply here in the link that I'm going to pull up right there. So that's how you can support and find DBW merchandise. I want to say hello to Jules out there in NYC. Very cold and chilly NYC. Again, you're in Maryland. It's real chilly up there, and the Ravens got a huge victory, so people are certainly happy for sure. I want to say hello to somebody else, but in chilly England, 3:16 a.m., another champion, the CCW Carnage Hardcore champion, Mr. Damn Dog himself, who next week is going to be in the ring at Colory Championship Wrestling, or his Colory Community Wrestling, Fighter Strike 3, and he's going to be doing double duty. He's going to be in their Fighter Strike Rumble, and he's also going to be wrestling against Alfie Nerds, where he puts up his hardcore championship on the line. And my first thought is, Jam Dog, what the heck are you doing up at 3:17 a.m. UK time? But also, thank you for the comment. I'm the first one. I think I know who that is. They just told me who it is. But let me bring up Mr. Cyrus, because he wants to say something to you, and I would like to bring that comment up because Cyrus has something to say. Coming into DBW to show us what DJW is made of. Not impressed. I'm more technically sound than you'll ever be, and I'll wrestle you any day of the week. Hashtag greatness from bell to bell. What do you say, champ?
Cyrus.
And we lost him. I guess Cyrus, his internet connection wasn't too impressed, and he tapped out there. Hopefully you come back on and get some better connection for us, DJW, because we don't want you to take that DJL for us live here on Sportswire Radio. And I do want to make it now known here loud and clear that next Monday night, 9 p.m., I think it's either 9 or 9:30 p.m., Cyrus the It Factor here. Cyrus the It Factor will be here to be inducted into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. And DJW, we don't want you to take a DJL like they used to chant in EBW against you. So respond here, and the floor is yours, and continue what you were saying.
Oh, like I say, the Ed Factor, Cyrus, shoot. You can come to my door. When they give you that key to open it, and you step in between those ropes, hey, I'm telling you, it's not looking good for you. Because trust me, I will toss you from one side of the ring to the other side. And trust me, this my new finisher, one of my new finishers. If you get locked in it, oh, you're tapping, buddy. You is tapping.
But are you sure you want to be so confident in saying something like that? Here's a man that's resume. I know you've been a veteran. I know you've been established. You've had some success. But this is a man that is, he's really on the Mount Rushmore in DBW history. This is a man that's going to be a Hall of Famer next Monday. This is a man that has stepped up toe-to-toe, and he's been doing this even longer than you have. Are you so sure to be so confident against a man that in the last 4 or 5 months, I would argue to say that he's been the most impressive of anybody outside of Judgment in DBW's roster currently?
I must say, the matches that I saw him in, yes, he was impressive. I was like, some moves he did, wow, like, whoa, okay, nice. But that's still, no matter what anybody says, his moves cannot stand up to my power. Won't even come that close. Maybe.
I think we lost you there a little bit, champ. You're having some bad connection signal. What was your last point you wanted to say there?
I said,
what was your last point?
His moves, yeah, might be, might can go toe to toe with mine, but my strength, my power, will stop him.
Well, we're going to certainly find out, maybe, just maybe, and I'll come back to that. But yes, he's in Scotland, and I am up and enjoying some Sportswire before he goes to bed. I appreciate that very much. And, of course, Mr. Jam Dog was on Sportswire Radio nearly 2 Tuesdays ago, and we had a great conversation. We spoke about the possibility of him maybe winning that Colory Rumble there, and maybe cashing in his shot at winning the World Underground Championship, just possibly against the winner of Dagan versus Spawn. So that's a great possibility. And Mr. Jam Dog himself is also going to be wrestling in a couple of places, and especially Alba Championship Wrestling in Abuse. We're going to have some coverage for as well. So thank you for that. So, okay, so you say your strength. Now, I will give you this. Your I was saying before we got cut off, you were a true technical wrestler. You were a mat veteran. You're a grappler. You certainly are all natural. You've got a really, I think, eclectic background. I was watching some of your matches toward the end of the season in EBW, Forever EBW against Maxis Fatal. Obviously, we'll talk about the match of somebody that you nearly killed. I've seen you against Robert Pearson. So there's been some familiarity of people that are in different places that you've wrestled in. But I mean, how do you try to incorporate some of that to have more success, not just in DBW, but throughout 2024 in Forever EBW and in EBW Pro?
Continue practicing, but always add a little twist to it. Because there's one thing I've learned when I was wrestling in school is that when you're wrestling, you all learn the same moves. You learn how to take somebody down with a double leg, a single leg, all that. So once you go actually get in a match with them, that's what they're going to be looking for, unless you add a little twist to it. So yeah, you go in. So yeah, they're thinking you're going to go for a double leg, but you add a little twist to it, catch them off guard. And that's how I do it. That's what's going to make my arsenal way much better.
I was curious on that. And again, you have a very eclectic background. You're certainly, I would say, one of the more technical savvy wrestlers that I've seen in the different companies that you worked for. Certainly in DBW, we've only gotten a little taste of that. In EBW Pro and Forever EBW, we've seen a lot of that. But I'm curious, since this is the first time I've had you on here, who are some of the people that have inspired kind of your ring abilities and wanting you to kind of go into this and have had the career that you had, my friend?
To be a wrestler, to start out, it was my grandma.
Wow. Okay. Tell me why.
Growing up, her and my grandfather, they was big wrestling. Her and my grandpa was big wrestling fans. And on Mondays, when it was WCW and WWF, dinner would be cooked so that I'll be with her, and my brother would be with my grandfather. My grandfather be cheering for the bad guys, and she's cheering for the good guys. And it was kind of funny hearing them argue over who's going to win and stuff. So then I told her, God rest her soul, I told her that one day I'll be her champion. So yeah, so from there, I've been a wrestling fan as a little tot. She had this big giant bear that me and my brother would sneak in, take it out of her room, and we would go in the hallway and we would practice wrestling moves on it.
Ah, that's kind of cool. I haven't heard that one before. And who were some of the wrestlers that you've emulated or looked up to, and to where we've seen you, DJW, and certainly in both in EBW Pro, Forever EBW, and DBW?
The ones in EBW?
Well, I was gonna say basically, who is some of the people that have inspired you in like the wrestlers that you've looked up to?
My number one, the Ultimate Warrior.
Wow. Okay, I haven't heard that one in a while. That's a good one. Okay.
Bret Hart. That's one thing on my bucket list. I would love to meet Bret Hart. I would love to go to Canada, to the Lion's Den or whatever he calls it.
It's the dungeon. It used to be the dungeon. Yeah, the dungeon.
Let's see.
Yeah, the dungeon's no longer there. Yep.
My favorite tag team, the Road Warriors.
Okay. At least you didn't say Legion of Doom, because the Road Warriors were certainly more lethal and more forceful than the Legion of Doom. And the Road Warriors were a far better team when they were that name. When they were LOD, it was Vince doing the usual. But yeah, Bret Hart is a name I've heard. I've also noticed that you've actually met a couple of big guys that have shared a locker room with you in EBW Pro. And two of those names I noticed that you've shared a locker room with was a recent star in Ricardo Rodriguez. Obviously, he was certainly the man right behind Alberto Del Rio when he was winning all those world championships in WWE. And I've also noticed that you've recently shared a locker room with some guy named the franchise Shane Douglas. And why is he important? Because yesterday I was on a podcast watching the 33rd anniversary of the 1991 Royal Rumble, and Shane Douglas probably had his best moment there. And the Shane Douglas that was most notably known as the man that really, put ECW on his back in the 1990s, and was an okay run in WCW, but is still a living legend. And I guess I'd have to ask you, what advice, if you had any, that you got from, let's say, the likes of the franchise Shane Douglas and Ricardo Rodriguez?
One thing that I got from Shane Douglas was, to keep going the way that I'm going. Mm-hmm. And just go out there and do my best, do what I'm doing, because it was great. But still try to work on cleaning up some things. But he said from what he saw, everything that I did was good. And from what's it called? He told me, hey, just keep going.
Good advice. No, that's definitely great advice, and I could certainly see him saying some of those things. And I know that when some other guys came on here, and it was I'm going to mention a DVG in a few minutes, and AJ came on here. Some of the other guys that wrestle in EBW, I'd ask them the same questions. I know Mr. Pearson, the man you've wrestled and you know him very well as well. I asked him the same question. They said, the same thing. They were very impressed about the fact that Shane Douglas sat there and watched everybody's matches, and he was able to also kind of, certainly give you guys some feedback, important pointers that, I'm sure you're going to use going forward. And if you want to follow EBW Pro, very simple, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at EBW Pro. If you want to follow DBW, there is a number of different ways they can do that. First of all, if you want to buy a t-shirt like the one I have, bonfire.com/store /dominant -breakout -wrestling. If you also want to follow DBW and watch DJW, very simple. Remember, in Merry Mayhem, he's the opening match. All you have to do is go to Dominant Breakout Wrestling on YouTube at Dominant Breakout Wrestling. Very, very simple there. Dominating Backyard Wrestling on Facebook. You can also check them out on Twitter, DBW Wrestling. And as I said, buy some merchandise, support the company. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters here on Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station. We are speaking with DJW, and we will have more coverage here of DBW coming up Monday night, because Monday night, 9:30 in your chair, Mr. Van Hansen. Van Hansen's going to be here. He's going to talk about his journey, some of his ups and downs. He's going to be wrestling in Amplified Wrestling, Enterprise Wrestling. Also, he's been a part of things here in DBW for a while, so he's going to share his journey, and I look forward to speaking with him for the first time. I'm here tomorrow night, tentatively 6 o'clock, with Jacoby of Resurrection Wrestling. Their next show takes place February the 17th live. Sergeant Jimmy Controversy is going to be in action alongside the likes of Mac 10, also Mikey Anarchy. And why is Sergeant Jimmy Controversy probably a big deal there? Because, well, your colleagues in the locker room in DBW, the Brooklyn Prodigies, actually wrestle for Mr. Controversy's company, Pro Wrestling Venom. So we're going to have a lot to talk about there with Jacoby tomorrow night, 6 o'clock Eastern Time. And we will have a to-be-announced participant on Sportswire Radio later tomorrow night. We just don't know who it is, because it's depending on a scheduling situation with who we might have. So I'm going to let people know that when Jacoby's with us live. But right now we are here with Mr. DJW of EBW Pro, Forever EBW, and DBW. A lot of initials there, but just remember, he's a pro wrestler in the Maryland area. Okay, so obviously we'll come back to some of those things, and I do want to talk about DBG in a few minutes, but I wanted to ask you kind of an obvious question to get out of the way. What are your goals in 2024?
My goals in 2024 is to go out there and entertain. It's what I love to do. I want to show the world that you don't have to have a title to be called to greatness. There's been many WWE superstars that's been really great, that should have been champions, but never was pushed to that. And that's my goal. I would love to be a champion at DBW. I love to be a champion again at EBW. But without a title around my waist, that makes me perform even better. Not saying that with the title it's gonna make me lazy, but it just know that without that title, I gotta set my game up to get to that title spot.
Interesting you say that, because a lot of wrestlers that have come on in EBW and DBW, they've talked about claiming gold, and you say, well, you know what? If I go out there and my ring skills show that I'm a guy that can be a floor general, I'm a guy that can certainly speak with my ring abilities, then you know what? That stuff will sort itself out. And you're partially right, because listen, I was watching the 1991 Royal Rumble yesterday in podcast, and Jake the Snake Roberts was on it, and he never won a championship, and he was one of the bigger draws for sure in the late 80s, early 90s. Roddy Piper was never a world heavyweight champion. He only had a couple of cups of coffee with the Intercontinental, the U.S. title, and the tag team titles in WWF and WCW. So I'll give you that much here. But let me get to a few more comments. Jules appreciates your story about your grandparents in wrestling. I think we all can appreciate that. Want to say hello to my buddy who is up, I believe, at 2:32 p.m. Eastern time, or Australian time. Let me take that back. 2:32 GMT time out there. Mr. Ace Reed, he is the host of the Wired Up podcast. He is the BWU World Champion, and he is here, and his YouTube page just hit 800 subscribers. Congratulations, Ace. Thank you for all that you've done for us. I know we'll bring you back on Sportswire at some point in the next month, so I look forward to seeing you in the month of February. I'm sure we'll talk a lot about BWU. We'll talk about anything else on your mind. Follow him again, BWU Backyard Wrestling. Also check him out, Backyard Wrestling Down Under, and his Wired Up podcast on Instagram. Okay, so you say championships don't mean nothing at the moment. Fine. But I'll ask you, though, what did it mean to you, though, to be the EBW Pac 14 TV champion? What did that mean to you? Because you had, a pretty good run with that championship. What did that mean to you?
That meant a lot to me. True. Wow, I can't even really explain it. My first time winning that belt, only thing I could do is hold that belt, look up to the sky, and yes, I did cry in the middle of the ring because I said I would become a champion. I became a champion. I would say I partially fulfilled my goal and my promise to my grandmother. Now, to fulfill that prophecy, it has to be at least one world championship. And as Cody is trying to do, I'm trying to do that myself. I'm trying to finish my story of being a champion.
Interesting. You talk about finishing the story. Now, there's a couple of different ways that you can go, but it's funny you said that, because last week we had Jam Dog on, and Jam Dog has been a champion before. He's currently a champion now, like you. And, he had trained alongside the likes of some guy, Finn Balor in Scotland. And, he's certainly been there with some big time names. He's had a decorated career, and, he's never won a world championship. And you've been around for a while. You've definitely had some success. And, you said before that championships didn't mean so much to you, but winning a world championship would be a big deal. And, there's a couple of ways you could go about that. Certainly in Forever EBW, or even in EBW Pro. And I know that, last week we had on somebody that I'm sure you know very well, in the infamous Montana, who, oh, by the way, is getting inducted into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame February the 10th, 4 o'clock Eastern time. For those that are listening and watching here, I mean, is that a man you might be targeting for something? Is that a man that, you see you have a bullseye on your back for?
I would have a bullseye on him unless he provokes me or gets in my way.
Okay, but you want to be a world champion. You want to be a champion. Obviously, there's a number of different ways you can go there about that. But I'm sure you heard what he had to say a little bit on Sportswire. And I'm sure also he's a man that, you definitely at some point want to, I'm sure, test your skills with and see if you could take a championship away.
And him testing my skills wouldn't be a good thing. But
yeah.
But if he wants to, I'll say, let's go for it.
Okay, I'm sure he's got his own businesses to be wrapped up with. Certainly, I know with ego and I'm sure we'll definitely come back to all of that in a few weeks. But I do want to bring up somebody that actually was supposed to be in your chair, but because we didn't have you on, it was like 4 different times we're supposed to have you on, and we've brought you on now. And that's a man called also with 3 initials, but his initials are DBG. And you nearly killed that man. And in fact, we've never seen him. We've never seen him in DBW, never seen him doing all what he's doing now. And you certainly made Double G throw in that towel. And from what we saw in Forever EBW back at the end of 2023, right before the season ended, and that was the last time I believe we saw you in the ring in Forever EBW. And we have to talk about that for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio. And I know you were chomping at the bit really to come on here, really because of, in part, because you saw what happened with DVG here on this platform. So I'm giving you the floor now and talking about that and talking about anything else that comes to mind when it comes to Mr. DVG, one half of those EBW Forever Tag Team Champions.
Well, for one, he kept running his mouth. In my other matches, I heard the jokes, the talk behind my back. So I felt that since he thought he was in that caliber, so I said, okay, let me ask for a one-on-one match with him. Let's see if he can back up what he's been talking. Yeah, you talk about I have eczema real bad. I ain't afraid to tell it. Yeah, so you talk about my ashy knees, my ashy elbows. Yes, but he saw what this ashiness did to him. That it almost ended his career. That it was so bad his partner had to throw in the towel.
You feel that he mocked you in terms of your health condition? Is that what you feel is a part of it?
So much I could say, yeah.
Why do you think he would do that for? Why do you think that he, wanted to mock your condition?
Just to get under my skin, just to see how far he probably see how far he could push my buttons before I exploded. And trust me, it takes a lot for me before I explode. But he took it just a little too far. Just kept talking, talking behind my back, talking to the guys in the back. Now, like I said, I could hear the laughter and stuff like that. So then I had to finally put an end to that. But once again, like I said, his partner saved his life.
I want to ask you a question on that. As we're here with DJW, my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters here on Sportswire Radio. And here's a guy that admitted on the show a few weeks ago that he doesn't really have that much experience in the ring. He's only just starting to learn. He's just only starting to really do what you've done for a very long time. And I'm curious about this because you're a veteran. You're certainly a veteran, much more compared to him. Why do you think that he would mock you? Why do you think that he went about things the way that he went about towards you, especially when you're a veteran? Now, tell me your thoughts on this, my friend. But from what I would think and what I would know about the world of wrestling, wrestling is kind of like an apprenticeship, and you don't, especially if you don't have the experience like Mr. Dat Voice Guy has, you really wouldn't want to go and say, maybe from what you say, the things that he said that got under your skin figuratively and literally.
Uh, you know, maybe somebody was whispering, pumping his head up. They had a little air pump, pumping his head up. His head got a little too big. So then he wanted to, as my dad would say, he wanted to test his winker. So he thought. So I guess he wanted to try to make a name for himself. Which in the match he was very, very well impressive.
Yeah, he was competitive for a while. No. He was competitive for a while. I mean, I got a chance to watch the match, and we spoke a little bit about it with him when he came on here a few weeks ago. No, he definitely, was competitive. But I'm just trying to help me figure it out here, champ. In that, again, ultimately, if I don't have the experience that you have, why would I more or less want to go and maybe bite off more than I can chew?
Wanted to make a name for himself. Or maybe he's one of those type of guys that wants to prove to the head boss that he can be that guy.
Are you trying to say something without saying something there? It sounds like something there. I don't know what you're trying to infer there, but that sounds like something you're trying to infer there. Is that fair for me to say?
Yeah.
So do you
But if a
feel
man's
like
hungry, I'm gonna let him eat.
Well, I guess let me ask you then this question. Obviously, you nearly killed this man. You nearly, took his livelihood away. I mean, do you think when we resume here in a couple of months that he's still somebody you have unfinished business with, or what?
Oh, definitely yes. Definitely
Why
yes.
is that? Why is that?
The list ain't that long, but I can just tell you, it's just when I just look at him. It's something about him that says, just take this guy out. Just just end him just like that.
So you want to make an example of him. You want to show that people like him, they don't know what they're getting into. You talked about tonight, DJW, in the fact that, you're a very skilled wrestler. You're a mat technician. I've watched you in your matches, let's say against a Maxis Fatal, where, you're really like a very, very diverse wrestler with a great arsenal. This guy, DVG, with all due respect,
Right.
he might be a great announcer. He might be a great commentator, but he's stepping into a world that he should probably, from what you're trying to infer to me, has no business of being a part of. Is that fair from what you're telling me tonight?
Yes, he does good, like you said, he does good with the commenting. He does good with all the electrical things, with all the green screening and stuff like that. That's something that that's something that you're good in. Not saying, from what I saw of him lately, yes, he's doing a tremendous job. He's improving a lot when he's stepping in that ring. But just that particular time that he stepped in the ring with me, he forgot to ask himself that question. What kind of man am I when I step in the ring with DJW? And that's another question that's everybody who's going to have to ask themselves when they step in the ring this season with me.
So is it fair for me to say, you tell me your thoughts on this, and you can take it any way you want. They're not going to be chanting anymore in Forever EBW, DJL. No more DJL. It's all going to be about DJWs in 2024, because I know that those chants were there, and you certainly heard them. But after what you did toward the end of the season, there's going to be a lot more DJWs than DJLs in 2024. Is that fair for me to state?
Yes, I've said this before, that no matter what, they could cheer me or they can boo me, but guarantee at the end of the night, they're still going to have my name in their mouth, whether they cheering or booing. DJW. So either way, they're still going to be saying my name. If not, they're going to be thinking
DJW. That's going to be DJL. That's for sure. And DVG saw that firsthand. And I guess then, now I'm going to break it here. Next Sunday on Sportswire Radio, he will take his place into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. And I want to point this out. He's being inducted not necessarily for his ring skills, but more for his following on YouTube and voice impersonations and, his following there. And that's definitely gotten him a massive following. And we've seen him on stage. He's done karaoke. I mean, this guy, outside of wrestling, is a really, really well-known person, but certainly in the ring, he's got his work cut out for him. And somebody like yourself who's looking for a big 2024 head, but he's going to be inducted into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. That'll be next Sunday night live here, and that'll be around 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. And I'm going to ask him some of the things that you said tonight, and I'm going to get his response on that right before March. You know, it's funny because we're going to have him on next week, and March isn't that far away. I know everybody right now is kind of dealing with ice, they're dealing with snow, they're dealing with cold. But the good news is that every day we gain 1 minute of light, and that also means that we're one step away from wrestling returning in places like Forever EBW, EBW Pro, and that means that we're going to be one step closer to seeing you in the ring, and maybe DVG will decide what he's going to do in his future. I'm going to ask him all of those things and some coming up next Sunday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, and he'll take his part into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. We're hanging out here with Mr. DJW. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling. And if you want to follow these great places, Forever EBW, I want people to follow Forever EBW. I want to give them a big, big shout out because there's a number of different ways you can get in touch and support the company. First of all, want to buy some merchandise. Designbyhumans.com, /shop. /EBW Wrestling. Very simple, easy to do. Go out there and support them that way. Forever EBW is on Instagram. Make sure you check them out. EBW_wrestling_Inc. Twitter and TikTok. That's right, TikTok at Forever EBW. Also YouTube, where you can watch DBWs of the likes of DJW. Forever EBW 8530 on Facebook at EBW Entertainment Backyard Wrestling. So many ways you can get in touch with DJW. Watch him in the ring. He looks like he's primed and poised for a big 2024. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of bull wrestling. I want to give a big shout out to a man that created a new logo for us here, a new brand logo that we're going to use sometimes throughout the shows. Mr. TBK, the Baltimore Kid, is a very, very happy man right now. He's on cloud nine because his Baltimore Ravens, maybe you're a Ravens fan as well, they got a huge victory over the Houston Texans. They clobbered them 31-10, 34-10, I should say, and they got a field goal late in the fourth quarter. And TBK created this nice little design for us, so I really want to thank him for that, and I look forward to him being back on Sportswire Radio Friday night. He is also the host of the Be More Talkative show. He has had some wrestling guys such as the likes of James Taylor, the Nemesis James Taylor, Omen Black, and Soldier GP, and he is certainly somebody that we look forward to hearing what he thinks about the Royal Rumble Friday. But right now we're here with Mr. DJW. You know, I was wondering, you and Maxis Fatal had some match. I think a lot of people who got a chance to watch that in Forever EBW were like, wow, what did I just watch? And what made you and Maxis Fatal back in September such a great kind of opponent for each other? And that match really, you know, maybe one of the better matches Forever EBW had in the entire year.
Like, I was surprised that that match was even booked, because I think it was supposed to be a triple threat match, but the third person didn't show up. So I figured they'll probably do something else, put us in different matches. But you know, when it came down to, then when we found out that the other person didn't show, we kind of looked at each other, I guess, you know, like, what could we lose? like, what could we lose? But once that bell rung, it was like, and we started going at it. I was shocked. Like, wait, hold on. This ain't supposed to be happening. You know, I should be here throwing him around. I should be beating the life out of him. But you know, it kind of blew my mind. You know, I had to sit back. I'm like, okay, let me switch my game around, because this young man's not in here. He's not playing. Ain't no joking with him.
No, he wasn't. He was not playing at all. And you guys had some spots outside the ring and inside the match. And, you know, I know that you haven't wrestled him a lot, but, you know, when you're having a match like that, and I know you certainly wrestled a diverse number of opponents throughout your career, but do you know, like, as that match is kind of going forward, and even though it's a match that, you know, you really didn't get a chance to talk to your opponent, and I'm sure with the plan changing, you know, these things do happen for sure, but did you know as the match was going on that it was going to be as good of a match as it was when you were wrestling that with him?
Yes, because like I've seen him in other matches. And he's an impressive young man, so I figured Hey, if he could do that with them, just think about what he probably could do with going against some of a big guy like myself. And yes, he impressed me really well.
And obviously, I would think Golden Dynasty, you've certainly had some, interesting dealings with over the past, and I'm sure that we'll see how that develops going into next season and Forever EBW. And yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, you guys are 1-1, right? If I'm not mistaken, you guys are 1-1, and that would mean that the next match would be a rubber match. So maybe that's a possibility that next time out can decide who's the better man. I mean, so maybe that's a match I think people would like to see, run it back. We always love those kind of like rubber matches, or those matches where you're watching something and it's special, and maybe that's a match we'll get, even if no titles on the line, just to see who's, for bragging rights, who might be the best pound for pound guy. Do you feel like in some ways you could have a case made on your behalf that you might be, if not the best pound for pound wrestler in EBW Pro or Forever EBW, that you are right up there? I mean, is that a fair statement for me to make?
Yes.
Okay, and tell me why you think that.
I think, because once I get you down, my mind is okay. I'm gonna get on top of you and I'm gonna beat you up. And then when I get tired of beating you up, then I'm gonna roll you around. And then after that, I'm gonna try to submission you. If I can't do that, I'll let you back up and do it all over again.
I did notice that, I would say, of many of the rosters that you've wrestled a part of, certainly EBW Pro and Forever EBW. I do want to come back to DBW in a few minutes, but I mean, I would say you are, I think, the best, at least in terms of your kind of submission-based style. I think that you probably have a slightly more different, more of an old school arsenal. So I think that those are things that I would definitely agree upon. So, I think that, we would certainly see maybe more of that. I have to ask you a fun question for a second. You're going to probably chuckle. I know you've watched a lot of these shows because you've messaged me. We've been speaking back and forth. But, I know he's going to look different now, and you'll probably have a hard time recognizing him. But what did you think of the Robert Pearson haircut?
I think, he looked very debonair. He looked very debonair. I've told him, look, do something, like, because he looked like a wild man.
He did.
And when he first came to EBW, that's what made me want to wrestle him. Because he looked like a wild man that could give me a good match. But me personally, I am very, very in cahoots of that. I like that he finally changed it.
Oh, so you like it. So, I mean, why do you like it? Because I think it's so fascinating, because we're going to bring him on at some point. Now, I'm sure he's heard me talk about this on every show we've had on Sportswire, whether it was Infamous Montana, whether it was obviously DVG, The Blaze, Ace Christian, Chase Wakefield, all the DBW and EBW guys. We've been asking them this question. He hasn't come on yet to kind of, give his response. But you, though, just to go on the record, you're okay with the new look.
Yes.
Well, you know what? I've got Van Hansen Monday, and Van Hansen is going to, I'm sure, be the total opposite of Robert Pearson on this. I'm kind of really fascinated what Van Hansen has to say on this, so I'm sure we'll find that out Monday night. I know Cyrus next week is not going to care one way or the other, so I don't even really have to go there with Cyrus. I'll do it for fun, but, I'm sure that we'll have a good time with that. And Jules likes the new Robert Pearson haircut. You know what? So each to his own. I can confirm on Sportswire I'm not getting a haircut anytime soon, because I'm just not doing it, because my look is certainly known worldwide at this point, and that's not changing anytime soon. But, I was curious when it comes to Robert Pearson. You guys have had history for the PAC TV 14 championship, and, what made him such a rival of yours throughout 2022?
It was his hunger. The way when he stepped in that ring, the way he clawed and scratched, took a beating throughout his matches. That that's what brought me. That's what That's what made him catch my eye because it was his hunger.
Mm.
So I wanted to make sure that he got enough food on his plate, which it seemed like
Okay.
he did.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he definitely, with Chaos Conspiracy, they've had success. They've definitely been, in EBW, in Forever EBW, they have, been in the middle of things. And I think that maybe, your rivalry with him helped him in a way, be a guy that could, be a relevant person in the discussion. I mean, there's no question in DBW, I think that obviously he's kind of just finding himself. I think very similar to you, and I look forward to having Robert back, and along with Jacob Cassidy and some other members here when it comes to Chaos Conspiracy, because they seem to be growing by the numbers. We'll have to find out more about that. I want to say hello to our buddy Joe Bidelau, aka Loose Cannon. I hope you and your family are doing well. Joe's out there in Massachusetts. I know that he got a new baby that just was born a few weeks ago, and these are going to be back in the ring apparently at some point in May. And hope you're doing well, and hope that you're warm and sound. And thank you, Jules, for the compliment. I appreciate that. I don't know if most people would agree about that on Sportswire, but we'll certainly not make it about me. It'll make it about our good buddy here, Mr. DJW. And I was curious here, going back to DBW. And you have a really good style. I definitely think that there's a lot of people that I would want to see wrestle. But other names to come to mind, I think you and the Blaze, Ace Christian, would be a great match. Ace Christian has certainly been proving himself quite a bit at Redemption Championship Wrestling last weekend. Also VTW, and VTW is coming back here later in the month of February. I mean, there's definitely some names I'd love to see you go up there with, the Mauler or Rock Hard Brandon Castelli. I don't know what name, what is he these days, but there's a number of talents I thought it was funny. There's a number of talent I would love to see you square off with to kind of bring, I think, a set of skills in DBW that we didn't see a lot of recently. I mean, are there some other names mine, let's say in DBW?
It's a good thing that you brought up Brandon Castelli
Good. I'm glad I did. I just
because
watched his vlog yesterday, so go
yes,
ahead.
yes, out of all the guys, well, not all the guys, but one of the guys in the future of DBW, he's on my hit list.
He's on your hit list now.
He's
Why is?
gonna
Go ahead.
be, and he's going to be my main one that I want to get my hands on.
Why? Why is he the main one that you want to get, and he's on your hit list? You tell me why.
Because from what I've seen, his style, his creativity, I like it. And it's like during the match, he kind of gets in, he's trying to get in, his opponent's head. And I kind of see that kind of similar to what I try to do sometimes, depending on who I'm wrestling.
Yeah.
So then, I take that. Mm-hmm. But I don't just want to go off on the gate of, saying, hey, I want to get in the ring with you right away. Because I know he's on one of the tops of DBW's roster. And I know that I have to, claw my way up to the top.
But I think also, going up against Brandon, yes, Brandon's been a guy that's, been in main event status, but Brandon certainly did not have the success. You look at Aaron Jones, certainly with the Hub City Championship, the vacant title, and he wasn't able to win that. Mr. Judgment, he wasn't able to beat him. Roland Havoc for the World Extreme Championship. Even the Blaze Ace Christian couldn't beat him. So, Brandon Castelli did not have the 2023 certainly to end that he would have liked. And maybe if you squared off with him in 2024, that's a big victory under your belt. That's a huge notch to have. And, if you want to make some waves, you want to certainly make your voice heard loud and clear. Beating Brandon Castelli, I think, would certainly do that because, again, you might have him right where you want him because he struggled quite a bit to win big matches in the second half of the season.
And with that, I agree with you. And also, looking back on the little time that I was in DBW, I was right there too. Struggling to win matches, just like he was. But we both went in there. We both went there, put on a show. But I think I could out wrestle him.
Something.
Everybody, yeah, they talk about, well, you can't because you're out because he's better. Well, not better, but he's higher than you are up on the status and stuff like that. Okay, status is just numbers. Status is just words. But when you step in that ring, it's all about how well you can move. How well you can get inside your opponent's head and stuff like that. How much can you outdo them?
Yeah,
and that puts me a shooting.
And I think that you have an opportunity to do that because you might have him at the right time. Like I said, he did not end his year with a lot of success. He came up short in big matches. And, you're a guy that if you can get a victory over him, all of a sudden, maybe we're talking about you as a worthy contender to Osiris. Maybe we're talking about you as a guy that could go up there, maybe get a shot back at the Anarchy Championship over Azrael. You can go a number of different ways in where you want. And I think that those are things, maybe, any other championship out there. Aaron Jones, you mentioned. Aaron Jones, a guy that, just teamed up with Mr. Judgment in Redemption Championship Wrestling. And, I have to ask you, is there any other places that you would like to wrestle or like to travel in?
Yes. Soon. Whoever we're connected with, maybe some of the DBW guys, they're like, who likes my style? They could put a good word out for me. Some of the guys at EBW, they could put a good word out for me because I'm willing to step in the ring, win or lose. If somebody said, hey, I got a spot for you, I got an opportunity for you, you want to give it a go? I'm there. I always have my bags packed. My wrestling bag, my gear, is always beside my front door. It might seem a little bit crazy and whatnot. It might seem a little bit crazy.
I tell you why it's not crazy. As we're speaking here with DJW, you can follow DJW through EBW Pros, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter pages. Also, make sure you support DBW. You can follow him through there and watch him at Merry Mayhem, Dominating Breakout Wrestling at their channel. Over 1,000 views have already occurred from Merry Mayhem. But, I've spoken with a lot of wrestlers in my career. Sportswire Radio is getting ready for our 5-year anniversary. Our 5-year anniversary week starts today. And I have probably interviewed, I don't know, to be honest, 500 wrestlers or more. And the common thing is you always got to have your gear with you. You always got to be ready, got to have your boots, and you never know because the old adage is card is subject to change. So any given moment, you could be out there. Somebody could say, you know what, DJW, I want you to go out there and I want you to wrestle. So you know what, whether it's DBW more often, whether it's in places like VTW, whether it's more places like Amplified, Enterprise Wrestling, wherever it might be, there could be a place for you. Redemption Championship Wrestling. So there is places that you could definitely be, and I have no doubt that you're going to have a big 2024. But I got to ask you, you got some really, music that kind of shows kind of who you are in the ring in Volbeat. And talk to me about your ring entrance, because I feel like in a lot of ways, you come out there with your hood on, you come out there in that ring gear. It's almost kind of like you are kind of like a throwback in a sense. If I were to define you as a wrestler, I think you are a little bit more of a throwback. And then you kind of come out there to that blasting Volbeat, and talk to me about that and, why the entrance music is so important to what you do best.
Oh, because, I am a warrior. And I'm one of those vicious warriors. People might misjudge me because, I'm always laughing and carrying on. But inside, I'm a hungry wrestling warrior. Now, because I'm one of those warriors, I don't care who I step in the ring with. Don't matter how big you are, how small you are. You could be a rookie, or you could be the top pro, the greatest of them all. And that warrior call, that's me. That's me right there.
Interesting.
I am
Interesting.
that warrior. Yeah, I'm that warrior that's calling anybody to step in that ring with me.
The Warriors Call. That's the Volbeat song. Yeah, the Warriors Call. Let's get ready to rumble. Yep. Yeah, maybe DVG can go announce that instead of wrestling you in the ring. I'm sure that'll be something we'll talk about next week on the show. But yeah, I mean, I guess I hadn't thought of it that way. I mean, yes, you don't necessarily talk a lot in the ring. You are one of these guys that kind of just goes out there and more or less backs it up. I mean, maybe that's the point, kind of like a warrior, because a warrior doesn't really do a lot of talking outside. They go out in kind of the square circle. Like, for example, our guest to kick off today and to kick off our 5-year anniversary week, the final member of our second class in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, Luke Leyland, just fought as the first person, the first British fighter to have fought in Dombay. He was basically like, look, I got to go out there. I got to fight. I got to do it. I got to go out there and get in the ring. And, and that's it. And you're kind of like one of those guys here that does that. And I was curious also, and I always ask this question to people who've come on here the first time before I get to closing thoughts. You've done some things here in your career. You've definitely, and I think Ethan Sorensen's about to say what I'm about to ask you. So Ethan, I'm going to actually do you the solid here. Is there one or two moments in your career that have stood out most so far that you would maybe want to share here with the audience?
One big thing was when I stepped in DBW, because they welcomed me with open arms. And besides EBW, being a part of a show that actually airs on TV, that's kind of like that was really special to me. How they opened me. I mean, they invited me in with open arms. The love that they showed right off the bat. I hear that when you go into some places, with veterans and stuff, they look at you as a scrub. But being in the back with those guys, it was nothing but pure love. I was talking to Ace Christian that in the beginning that I kind of didn't feel comfortable of opening up to them guys, because I didn't want to say something weird and they look at me crazy or whatnot. I'm one of the type of guy.
Don't feel too bad. I listen. Don't feel too bad. I do that every time I'm on Sportswire. There's always something I say weird and stupid. So, but I understand your point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys that I'll sit back for a couple times, just to observe their vibe, and once I feel comfortable, I can hear how they talk, how they laugh, how they goof off and stuff, and if it's right on my alley, oh yeah, I'm gonna open up to you. But if not, I'm gonna still have to sit back because I don't want to mess up. I don't want to say something or do something that messes up my opportunity, and they close the door on trying to give me that opportunity push.
That's interesting. And I think that you say a lot of things that make sense. And from what I know about DBW, I've been covering DBW really for about, I would say, 5 to 6 months now. And what I think is impressive to me about DBW is that DBW has a very tight-knit locker room. A lot of people in DBW, it's a very welcoming environment. Sometimes you go into locker rooms and there's a lot of politics to be played. There's a lot of, there's distrust. The DBW locker room is a nice mix of veterans. It's a nice mix of young talent. It's a nice mix of people that, they really want to go out there and be the definition of what all wrestling matters for. DBW, and I think it's shown also in the company's growth. Think about where the company was years ago. Think about where the company is now. And think about where the company will be probably in a year from now. And I think that shows into the success of the product And I think that by DBW's roster, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure somebody will fact check me on this. DBW might have the largest roster of any talent that comes onto Sportswire Radio, and that includes pro wrestling companies. I think it's them and XCW. XCW, but you might want to check a plug out to them. XCW Shelby, with the longest running company in the state of Indiana for semi-pro wrestling, and they're the gold standard of this sport. And I think DBW might have, if not as many or more people, and it shows you that the diverse number of talents. You have your veterans like Judgment, you have your veterans like Cyrus, you have your veterans like Roland Havoc, but then you have guys that are up and comers like Robert Pearson, and Jacob Cassidy, and certainly Chase Wakefield, and you have also your other people now. Whether it's like Big Tex or Corey Graves, Colin Graves, AJ. I mean, there's a lot of great talent in. I think they all mesh so well, and I think you would be an excellent addition to that roster. And I think that, we hope to see more of you here in DBW, because I think that you would certainly bring I think, unique ring ability that the company might need going forward. That's just my opinion. You can take it whatever the way you want.
I appreciate that. Highly appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate some of the things that you had to say. So obviously, as we're getting ready for closing thoughts here, and I kind of wanted to give you the opportunity before I close out the show. And since we now know that DVG is going to be back on here next Sunday, and I'm going to obviously induct him into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, I'm going to let him speak on some of the things you've had to say. But I was also wondering, my friend, and do you have any final thoughts for him? Is there anything else you might want to say toward Mr. DVG that, I'm sure he can get a chance to listen to and maybe digest if he wants to run to the hills, or maybe see if he wants to go back in the line of duty that you put him in, is basically to quote a Call of Duty tagline there. So any final words you might have for DVG before he comes back next Sunday?
Only thing I can say is you better be careful what you say. Because what you say could be the opening of something even worse. I'm telling you, I've been training on a new arsenal.
Yeah, and could this be maybe his listen, next Sunday? Maybe it could be his final days on Sportswire. Maybe this could be the beginning of the end of it. If he isn't careful, in March, it's not that far away. DJW, I mean, we could be looking at, could this be the final days we ever see DVG if he isn't too careful next Sunday, you think?
As a wrestler? Yes. So probably the next time you will see DVG is probably with his arm up like this. He's walking with a cast or something, still coming to the ring, sitting behind the computer doing this and doing that. That would probably be the next time you will see him. That's if he's not careful.
You know what that reminds me of? Before we get to closing thoughts, you'll probably chuckle at this. When I was a kid, I must have been 12 or 13. There was a kid that I wouldn't say I was friends with him, but he was somebody that hung out on our block, and he all of a sudden bought a skateboard, and he had no experience riding a skateboard, right? So one day, this had to have been maybe right before summer, right? And he's like, "Hey guys, I'm on this skateboard," right? He didn't know what he was doing, maybe like DVG, and what happened was, he actually fell off the skateboard and broke his wrist, kind of like what you said. And he was like this that whole summer. And if DVG does what you're telling us here next Sunday on Sportswire, and you don't like a thing or two what he says, he could end up like that kid that I knew who skateboarded that one time and never skateboarded again. So I don't know, DVG, you might be hanging on to those tag team championships, but if you aren't careful, you might only be keeping them warm for somebody else, because your days in the ring could be numbered, and who knows, maybe your days as a voice, the voice of EBW and DBW and Forever EBW, could certainly be numbered, because DJW tonight has certainly said a mouthful. He's talked about his past wars with Robert Pearson. He's talked about the infamous Montana. He's talked about the Blaze Ace Christian, what he gave him. He talked about Brandon Costelli. He talked about winning championships. He talked about world championships. He talked about his family inspiring him. He talked about being the Pac-14 TV champion. He talked about sharing locker rooms with Shane Douglas and Ricardo Rodriguez. And he also talked about the fact he is training for a big 2024. He is getting ready. The first time we see him in the ring coming up is for EBW Pro, March the 9th, Bound for Luck. It's not that far away because I'm thinking about it right now, right? Today is January 20th, and we're inaugurating DJW for a big 2024. Hence, January 20th is supposed to be the day where presidents get inaugurated. Well, you're getting inaugurated for a big 2024 that has started tonight. We're going to see with EBW Pro. You can follow EBW Pro in a number of different ways here. Very simple, very easy, right to the point. We want to give a big shout out to everybody at EBW Pro. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at EBW Pro. If you want to follow Forever EBW, Instagram, EBW_wrestling_Inc. Twitter and TikTok, Forever EBW. YouTube, Forever EBW 8539. Facebook, EBW Entertainment Backyard Wrestling. This company has been going strong since 1999. Over 10 seasons in the book. DesignedByHumans.com, /shop, /EBW Wrestling. Make sure you support this company. And I got to ask management, where's the DJW shirts? Where are those DJW shirts? Because if you go on the Design by Humans page, I don't see your shirts. I was like, where's your shirt? You've been a Pac-14 TV champion. So hopefully management works on that. Get you some merchandise. Get you some shirts. Also, DBW, going to plug them one more time before closing thoughts. You can follow DBW, very simple, straight to the point. Couple of different ways. Facebook, Dominating Backyard Wrestling. YouTube, Dominating Breakout Wrestling, where you can watch DJW most recently and Mary Mayhem compete for the Anarchy Champion to open the show. Twitter, DBW Wrestling. And if you want to buy some merchandise, like what I have right here, bonfire.com, /store, /dominant, -breakout, -wrestling. Very simple, straight to the point. And you can follow all that information here. And by the way, congratulations to the San Francisco 49ers. They defeated the Green Bay Packers 24-21. So I hope that you weren't a Packers fan, DJW. Maybe DVG was a Packers fan. Maybe that's what he's going to deal with coming up next year. Yeah, well, it was fun. Although I'm not a 49ers fan, what I will say was that one of my most prized gifts was a San Francisco 49ers football as a kid. I got a San Francisco 49ers football, and I liked that 49ers football. It didn't last me very long, but it was a nice gift I got as a kid. I think it was for my birthday, I want to say. But nobody cares about my birthday. People care about what you want to say. Thank you so much for the great live stream. Champ, I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say? The floor is yours, my friend, and fire away.
I'm going to say this to DBW and EBW.
Go for it.
Is that when you step in the ring, there's two questions that you need to ask yourself. First question is, what kind of man are you for stepping in the ring with me? Then the second question is, what kind of man is DJW in at that moment? Because I'm telling you, I'm coming forth with new moves, new art, I'm telling you, the talent is off the chain. I've been practicing ever since they said it's time to take a break. If you don't believe me, you can ask my kids, you can ask my wife. There's a few times I RKO with my dog just for the fun of it.
Wow. Okay, you RKO'd your dog. Okay.
And my friends will tell you that's all I do. I wake up thinking wrestling. Throughout my day, I think wrestling, and when I go to bed, I have wrestling on my mind.
Well, I tell you what,
so that's all I do.
I appreciate that. Go ahead, continue. Go ahead.
And that's all I do. Have wrestling on my brain. I sit back and think about my losses. I sit back and think about my winnings, and that inspires me. Okay, what can I change up to be better? What can I do that the management of DBW will give me that key? We'll say, here you go. Open up that door of opportunity and walk on in. The same thing with EBW. Give me that key again and let my new performance, my new talent show you why I'm nothing to mess with.
Well, you know what? I'll give you this much before I say hello to somebody and congratulate somebody on a very successful show that they had just a little short while ago. Is that since we're talking about the San Francisco 49ers here and Jerry Rice, who was obviously the greatest wide receiver, maybe I don't know if he was the greatest football player, but he was certainly up there. And what he used to do every offseason was he would run throughout the entire summer. Most people would, take breaks and they would just, not do out anything in the spring and the summer. And he would go out there and he would run. Basically, he would climb mountains. I mean, Jerry Rice was like, even now, if you look at Jerry Rice, he's got to be about 60 and he looks like he could still go out there in the field. So you've always got to be ready. You've always got to be prepared. So whatever certainly leads your way in EBW Pro, forever EBW, and also in DBW, I have no doubt that those things will certainly help you be successful in the 2024 that you want ahead. And I want to say hello and obviously congratulate for our friends over in the IMF. Obviously, they had their show here tonight, which was at a 400-seat venue. And these guys kicked some butt. They did a phenomenal job. And you can follow them on YouTube at IMF Wrestling 666. I want to congratulate the entire locker room on a very, very successful show. And I have no doubt that they're only going to go to bigger and better places. I also want to congratulate the boogeyman of the Midwest, Mr. Omen Black. It is his show on Sportswire. He says he's not impressed, but you know what? We'll certainly see. Never say never. Any day, it could, who knows what can happen, one day at a time. But to Omen, all seriousness, congratulations on your match that took place earlier tonight against Kodak Kid and Nicholas Crenson. I have no doubt I'm going to look forward to watching that and definitely maybe seeing you against some guy, Mikey Anarchy, or about a guy that your friend, the Brooklyn Prodigies, wrestle with, Sergeant Jimmy Controversy, over in Pro Wrestling Venom. So Omen Black could maybe be seeing those guys in the ring one day, but who knows until then. But I'm looking forward to a big 2024 for you. I'm looking forward to the future. I look forward to seeing you more often on Sportswire Radio. You definitely have a great moveset. You definitely have a technical ability that I think is lacking a little bit in DBW. And I think I'd like to see you have more success in EBW Pro and Forever EBW. We'll see what the future holds. And I got to do this before we go on the air. DJW, because we didn't do that. So you always go DJW. I knew you'd like that one.
I've been working on a new one. When it come out, you got the one here and boom. So it's
all right. Well, you know what? I'm excited about it. I have no doubt we'll see it in the future. But obviously, we will certainly see what happens. And until then, congratulations. I wish you a lot of luck in 2024. And I also definitely want to see what the future holds. And March the 9th, I hope to see you out there on the card. EBW Pro, I have no doubt I'm going to be speaking a lot about you with DVG. I have no doubt Cyrus will have maybe a thing or two to say about you if he's in the right mood coming up here next Monday. And maybe I'll even throw your name out there in Van Hansen's segment. But I'll definitely be throwing your name out there with the infamous Montana, who takes his place into the Sports by Radio Hall of Fame. Of course, the EBW Pro champion. We will talk about him in 3 weeks from now. But until then, congratulations. Thank you for finally coming. I'm glad that we made this happen after a long, about a month and a half delay. And I hope this met your goals and satisfactions. And keep doing what you're doing and reach for the sky, reach for that golden ring, as Sammy Hagar famously sang in Van Halen Dreams. And I'll definitely see you soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was none other than Mr. DJW, the former EBW Forever and Pro Wrestling Star. Also, he is the former Pac 14 TV champion. Also, recently seen him in DBW and Dominant Breakout Wrestling. He is there in their Merry Mayhem show. He just wrestled for the Anarchy Championship there, and we look forward to seeing more of him in the future. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling. I am the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, Mr. Omen Black Show, and also where all wrestling matters here. If you're on Twitch for the first time at Sportswire Radio, thank you for tuning in. If you're on YouTube and Twitter, I thank you as well. And if you're on sportswireradio.org, you go back to your regularly scheduled programming. If you're on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter, I will be back tomorrow, 6 o'clock Eastern time with Jacoby of Resurrection Wrestling. And to be announced, a major guest on Sportswire Radio at some point. We don't know who the guest might be, but it's a major one. So going to give that person at least a little bit more time to make their decision. But if their whole family situation works out, but until then, I also want to thank Jules for tuning in, Ethan Sorensen. I want to thank the IMF. Congratulations on their historic show at New Year's Vengeance, 400-seat venue. Nailed it, crushed it out of the park as always. But until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. On the number one global radio station that is